Alright, let's talk about the sins, virtues, and tales. This is about the 7 deadly sins. So, the 7 deadly sins are those transgressions which are fatal to spiritual progress. Learn about the history, cultural associations of the deadly sins and heavenly virtues. Peruse further reading and resources, and read the tales of sin and virtue. Yeah. So we're going to go through each of the sins right here. Let's go through sloth. The sin of sloth. Dost thou love life, then do not squander your time, for that's the stuff life is made of. Benjamin Franklin. Okay, synopsis. What is it? Sloth is the avoidance of physical or spiritual work. Why do you do it? You're shiftlessness, lazy, and good for nothing. Your punishment in hell will be, you'll be thrown into snake pits. Dance, sinner, dance. Associated symbols and such like. Sloth is linked to the goat and the color light blue. Related resources. In the Summa Theology, medieval theologian Thomas Aquinas said sloth is sluggishness of the mind which neglects to be good, is evil in its effect if it so oppresses men as to draw them away entirely from good deeds. The pocket Catholic Catholicism says sloth is the desire for ease, even at the expense of doing the known will of God. Whatever we do in life requires effort. Everything we do is to be a means of salvation. The slothful person is unwilling to do what God wants because of the effort it takes to do it. Sloth becomes a sin when it slows down and even brings to a halt the energy we must expand in using the means of salvation. Yeah, that is sloth. Now we will go to greed. The sin of greed. Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed. Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, synopsis. What is it? Greed is the desire for material wealth or gain, ignoring the realm of the spiritual, and is also called avarice or covetousness. I probably mispronounced that. Why do you do it? You live in possibly the most pampered consumerist society since the Roman Empire. Your punishment in hell will be, you'll be boiled alive in oil. Bear in mind that it's the finest, mostly luxurious boiling oil that money can buy, but it's still boiling oil. Associated symbols and such like. Greed is linked with the frog and the color yellow. Okay, let's go here. Related resources in the Summa Theologian. Aquinas says greed, it is a sin directly against one's neighbor, since one man cannot abound in external riches without another man lacking them. It is a sin against God, just as all mortal sins, inasmuch as man contemns things and internal for the sake of temporal things. Okay, then we go to anger or wrath, the sin of anger. Never go to bed mad, stay up and fight. Phyllis Diller. It's Speak when you are angry, and you will make the best speech you will ever regret. Ambrose Bryce? Bryce? I think that's how you pronounce it. Synopsis. What is it? Anger is manifested in the individual who spurs love and opts instead for fury. It is also known as wrath. Why do you do it? You're wired for it. Also, the people around you are pretty damn irritating. Good point. Your punishment in hell will be you'll be dismembered alive. Associated symbols and such like. Anger is linked to the bear and the color red. Well, that's true. Related resources. Thomas Aquinas says anger is the name of a passion of the sensitive. Appetite is good insofar as it is regulated by reason, whereas it is evil if it set the order of reason aside. In the Canterbury Tales, Geoffrey Chaucer called anger the fervent blood of man. Ugh. In the heart, okay, I'm not going to try to, that's some messed up language. I know it's old English, whatever. Okay, let's go on. We got lust. The sin of lust. Each of us is born with a box of matches inside us, but we can't strike them all by ourselves. Laura Esquivel, I probably mispronounced that. I'm usually good at that. Synopsis. What is it? Lust is the innate craving for the pleasures of the body. Could be also that you lust after an inanimate object. That's another form of lust. Why do you do it? Oh, please. Pleasure. Your punishment in hell will be you'll be smothered in fire and brimstone, not kisses. Associated symbol and such like. Lust is linked with the crow and the color blue. Okay, so whatever there occurs a special kind of deformity whereby the vendered act is rendered unbecoming, there is a determinate species of lust. This may occur in two ways. First, through being contrary to right reason, and this is common to all lustful vices. Secondary, because in addition to the contrary to the natural order of the vendered act, as becoming to the human race, and this is called the unnatural vice. I'm going to, okay, so we have that. Now we go to gluttony, the sin of gluttony. The one whose concern is with that which enters the belly will discover that his value is found in that which goes out of it. Imam A. Ghazali, I probably, like I said, synopsis. What is it? Gluttony is an innate desire to consume more than that which one requires. Why do you do it? Because you were weaned inappropriately as an infant. Your punishment in hell will be you'll be force-fed rats, toads, and snakes. Ugh. Associated symbols and such like. Gluttony is linked to the pig and the color orange. Okay? 9th century Russian bishop Brian I'm not going to pronounce that name. If you please and pamper your stomach, you will hurl yourself over the precise of bodily impurity into the fire of wrath and fury. You will coercine and drunken your mind, and this coercing and drunken your mind, and in Square said, gluttony donates not any desire of eating or drinking, but an innate desire, leaving the order of reason, wherein the good of moral value consists. Devils, demons, witchcraft says those who commit the sin of gluttony are punished in hell by being forced to eat rats, toads, and snakes. What do you do? Yeah. Okay, next is the envy. The sin of envy. Do not overrate what you have received, nor envy others. He who envies others does not achieve peace. Buddha. Synopsis. What is it? Envy is the desire for others' traits, status, abilities, and situations. Situation? Why do you do it? Because other people are so much luckier, smarter, more attractive, and better than you. The punishment in hell will be, you will be put in freezing water. Okay? Envy is linked with the dog and the color green. Okay, instead of envy, according to the aspect of the object, is contrary to charity, whence the soul derives its spiritual life. Charity rejoices in and neighbor's good, while envy grieves over it. Okay, so that's envy. And then we get pride, the mother of all sins. The sin of pride. It was pride that changed angels and the devils. It is humanity that makes men as angels. St. Augustine. Synopsis. The sin of pride is said by some to be the foremost of the 7 deadly sins. Hubris is the gateway through all other sin enter, the moral sin. Pride is excessive belief in one's own ability that interfere with the individual's recognition of the grace of God. It has been called the sin from which all other sins arise. Pride is also known as vanity. What do you do? Well, meaning elementary school teachers told you to believe in yourself. Your punishment in hell will be, you'll be broken on the wheel. Associated symbols and such like. Pride is linked to the horse and the color violet. Okay, Thomas Aquinas said that pride, innate self-love, is the cause of every sin. The root of pride is found to consist in man not being in some way subject to God and his rule. The Traveler's Guide to Hell says that pride is ruled by the celestial sign of the sun. It is the mother of all sins, the thin line between righteousness and self-righteousness. Incidentally, the book actually mentions the 7 deadly sins homepage. Okay, those are the sins. Let's go back to here and we'll read some more. Okay, sins. Sins. The people have always been immoral, shiftless, and self-gratifying for ages. Humankind struggled to find a conceptual system to operationalize their spiritual shortcomings. Pride is excessive belief in one's own abilities that interfere with the individual's recognition of the grace of God. It has been called the sin from which all other sins arose. Pride is also known as vanity. Envy is a desire for others' traits, status, abilities, or situations. Gluttony is the innate desire to consume more than that which one requires. Lust is the innate craving for the pleasures of body. Anger is manifested in the individual who spurns whoops, sorry. God, I sort of paused up for a minute. Okay. Gluttony is an innate desire to consume more than that which one requires. Sorry about that. Lust is an innate craving for the pleasures of the body. Anger is manifested in the individual who spurns love and opts instead for fury. It is also known as wrath. Greed is the desire for material wealth or gain. Ignoring the realm of the spiritual is also called avarice. Sloth is the avoidance of physical and spiritual work. Virtues. In the world of the inacuity, they are a few gleams of hope in the mine of our shameful indulgences. Various formulations of virtue have been proposed over the ages. Cardinal, theological, contrary, and others. Resources. In case you're looking for some in-depth information, not just satisfying a bar bent, here are some interesting, right here. So let's go through the rest. History. There is a charm about the forbidden that makes it unspeakably desirable. Mark Twain. History. How is it behovenly thine to tell which it's been severe deadly sins. This is to sin. Oh my God, this is fucking old English. Chastise and sins? Oh my God. People have always been immoral, shiftless, self-gratifying, but for ages, humankind struggled to find a system to operate. Okay. According to Sacred Origins of Profound Things by Charles Penna, Greek theologian, first drew up a list of 8 offenses and wicked human passions. They were in order of increasing seriousness: gluttony, lust, avarice, sadness, anger, acedia, vanaglory, and pride. Evangelists saw the escalating severity as representing increasing fixation with the self and with pride as the most egregious of the sins. I'll see it from Greek, not to care. And denonate spiritual sloth. In the 6th century, Pope Gregory the Great reduced this list to 7 items, folding vanity into pride. This is eventually, I think that meant, Alicide into sadness, and adding envy. His ranking of the sins seriousness was based on the degree from which they offended against love. It is from most serious to least: pride, envy, anger, sadness, avarice, gluttony, and lust. Later theologians, including Thomas Aquinas, would contradict the notion that the seriousness of these sins would be ranked in that way. The term conventionist has historically been used interchangeably with avarice. In accounts of the deadly sins in the 17th century, the church replaced vague sin of sadness with sloth. Throughout the Middle Ages, church hierarchy emphasized teaching all lay people the deadly sins and heavenly virtues. Other spiritual manuals embellished on the tradition. Gerson presents a list of contrary virtues in his ABC des Simples Gens, which was derived from the Psychosomatica, or Battle for the Soul, a 5th century epic poem by Prudentius. He believed these virtues would help counteract temperance towards the deadly sins. According to the Picture Book of Devils, Demons, and Witchcraft by Ernest and Jonah Leaner, each of the sins was associated with a specific punishment in hell. The punishments are included in the descriptions of each sin found on this site. I once saw a set of 16th century engravings by Gregory Penzsch that used animals in their depiction of the sins. The prints also used women as symbolize all the sins, which was probably okay in the socio-political climate of the 16th century, but probably wouldn't be encouraged nowadays. Okay? Modern social sins. My biggest problem with modernity may lie in the growing separation of the ethical and the legal. Nassim Nicholas Taleb. On March 9, 2008, the Vatican newspaper published the list of 7 modern social sins. The list appeared in an interview with, oh my god, wow, these names are just like Monsignor Gianfrancesco Garotti, who suggested they were new sins which have appeared on the horizon of humanity as corollary to the unstoppable process of globalization. Although not meant as an official shift in policy on what action are meant most likely to earn you a front row seat in the roasting set racks of the eternal rotisserie of damnation. I like that. The modern sins are consistent with Pope Benedict's hardline stance on confronting what he judges to be moral equivocation in social and secular society. In some cases, the media erroneously reported this list as modernized replacement for the original sins, occasionally attributing them directly to the Pope. The modern social sins: destroying the environment, genetic manipulation, obscene wealth, creating poverty, drug trafficking, immoral scientific experimentation, violations of the fundamental rights of human nature. Yeah, I actually can agree with all that. Gandhian sin. I am not a saint unless you think of a saint as a sinner who keeps on trying. Nelson Mandela. Gandhi on the 7 deadly sins. Mohandas. Oh my God. Gandhi, one of the most influential figures in modern social and political activism, considered these traits to be the most spiritually privileged to humanity. Wealth without work, pleasure without consistent conscience, science without humanity, knowledge without character, politics without principle, commerce without morality, worship without sacrifice. Yeah, I can agree with those. Yeah, too. The Seven Dwarfs. The Seven Dwarfs. Okay, let's see. Dopey, sleazy, bashful, grumpy, happy, sleepy. Doc, I said sleazy. The Snow White Connection. In 1937, these diminutive heroes found their way into the hearts of young people throughout the land. Millions of children embrace the myth of the friendly, protective dwarves who befriended Snow White. What lies beneath the story? 7 shrunken men shacked up with a secluded forest cabin hiding a virginal teenage runaway. 7 tortured forms shouldering their demonic tools. They march into hellish bowels of the earth, singing as they go. Harmless, mythic munchkins, or the epitome of evil. You decide. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and the Seven Deadly Sins, by R.S. Okay, good Catholic girl. She didn't mind the cleaning. All of her household chores at first were small and hardly labors one could find demeaning. One duty was one refuge after all. And if she had her doubts at certain moments, and once confessed them to the Father, she was instantly referred to text in Romans and Peter's first emphasis. Oh my God. Years passed, more sinful every day. The 7 break-fasted, grabbed their pitchforks, donned their horns, and sped to contrive the hopes of heaven, sowing the neighbor's lawn with. She set to work, pride. Okay, you can read this. Yeah, this thing goes on. So, I'm not going to finish that. 7 castaways. Okay. Gilligan's Island is wherever you want it to be in your mind. Bob Denver. The Gilligan Island Connection. Okay, let's look at this 3-hour tour. In 1965, American public was first treated to the whimsical story of Gilligan and the 6 other hapless castaways trapped on a small Pacific island after their pleasure. Actually, I can see the Gilligan's Island reference to the 7 Deadly Sins. Cruise ended in a violent shipwreck. During the show's 3-year run, 98 episodes, the island's inhabitants attempted to leave the island by broadcasting radio messages, sending smoke signals, repairing the minnow, building a raft, fixing the deep diving suit to permit Gilligan to walk along the ocean floor. Back to Hawaii, they were visited by headhunters, wayward transatlantic Stuart pilot, and astronauts in a returning moon capsule. A television special brought the entire Harlem Globetrotters to the island, yet the castaways were strangely unable to get off the island, apparently doomed to spend eternity in each other's company. In fact, what seemed to be perfectly disarming, if somewhat frustrating situation comedy was a representation of a satire-like netherworld in which the characters represent the 7 deadly sins, forced in the days after Armageddon in the form of the flood, to live in unceasing torment with each other. The viewers witness the characters' eternal damnation through Gilligan, a name derived from the Scottish Gael, a hunting or fishing guide. Hunting or fishing guide, also symbolizing the sin of sloth. Gilligan has fallen among the other sinners, though through his own inability or unwillingness to escape in the show. It is almost always Gilligan who unwittingly sabotages the castaways' attempts to rescue. One interpretation of Gilligan's Island Dilly is Pride, the professor, I would say greed is Mr. Howe, lust is Ginger, anger is Miss Howe, gluttony is the skipper, envy is Mary Ann, and sloth is Gilligan. Oh, that actually makes sense. I'm going to go back here for a minute because of the dwarf thing. I want to see what they say about they don't. Okay, I was just looking to see if they did the same thing with the dwarfs. 7 abominations. Okay. He who has a generous eye will be blessed, for he gives of his bread to the poor. Proverbs 22:9. 7 abominations unto the Lord. According to Proverbs 6:16 through 19, there are 7 abominations unto the Lord. A proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devileth, wicked imaginations, feet that will swift and run to mischief, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that shall discord among brethren. Okay. Let's go to virtues. Virtues. We value virtue, but do not discuss it. The honest bookkeep, the faithful wife, the earnest scholar get little of our attention compared to the embezzler, the tramp, the cheat. John Steinbeck. The cardinal virtues: prudence, temperance, courage, justice. Classic Greek philosophers considered the foremost virtues to be prudence, temperance, courage, and justice. Early Christian churches, theologians adopted these virtues and considered them to be equally as important to all people, whether they were Christian or not. The theological virtues: love, hope, faith. St. Paul defined the 3 chief virtues as love, which was the essential nature of God, hope, and faith. Christian church authorities called them the 3 theological virtues because they believed the virtues were not natural to man in his fallen state, but were conferred at baptism. That's true. Now we have the 7 contrary virtues: humility, kindness, abstinence, charity, chastity, patience, liberty, allegiance. The contrary virtues were derived from the psychosomatic Battle of the Soul, an epic poem written by Prudentius, 410. Practicing these virtues is alleged to protect one against temptation towards the 7 deadly sins. Humanity against pride, kindness against envy, abstinence against gluttony, chastity against lust, patience against anger, liberty against greed, and indulgence against sloth. The 7 heavenly virtues: faith, hope, charity, fortitude, justice, temperance, prudence. The heavenly virtues combine the 4 Catholic virtues: prudence, temperance, fortitude, or courage, and justice, with a variation of the theological virtues, faith, hope, charity. I'm still researching. Okay. Then we have here the 7 corporal works of mercy. Continuing the numerical mysticism of 7, the Christian Church assembled a list of 7 good works that are included in medieval catechism. They are: feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, give shelter to the stranger, clothe the naked, visit the sick, minister the prisoners, bury the dead. There you go. Okay, then here's books and reading resources. Additional reading and resources on sins and virtues. Lust and other books in the Deadly Sins series. Lust, says Simon Blackburn, is furtive, headlong, always seizing up opportunities. It is a trail of clothing in the hallway, the thrashy cousin of love, written by one of the most eminent living philosophers, attractively illustrated and colorfully packaged. Lust is a book that anyone would lust over. The series is a collaboration between the New York Public Library and the Oxford. Okay, the 7 Deadly Sins, Jewish Christianity, and Classified Reflections on Human Psychology. In the 7 Deadly Sins, Solomon Schimmel explains why psychology must incorporate many of the ethical and spiritual values of religion and moral philosophy if it is to effectively address the emotional problems faced by modern men and women, be they believers or agnostics. Aquinas and Shakespeare, among others, he shows how all of us can learn from them about the relationship between virtue and psychological well-being and vice and emotional distress. This insightful and fascinating work guides us to master our passions rather than be enslaved by them, so that we can become more human and build a happier, caring society. 7 Deadly Sins, A Visitor's Guide. Lawrence Cunningham guides readers on a tour and personal inquiry into the 7 Deadly Sins, their roots of the mystic experiences of the Desert Fathers, their modern manifestations, and how to support these invasive, destructive habits with virtue. Sloth, envy, gluttony, greed, anger, lust, pride. When and how were they first identified? Who grouped them together? Can we truly resist their pull? Renowned theologian Lawrence Cunningham explores these questions and others in his new book. He traces the roots of the 7 Deadly Sins to the mystic experiences of the Desert Fathers, who in total solitude experienced and identified these corrupt inner desires as forces that twist us away from God. He offers examples and insights from Scripture, Christian tradition, and modern life, helping readers meet each of the 7 deadly sins with a corresponding virtue. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, here's more about reading on it. So, yeah. I wanted to do this real quick. I've been wanting to do it for a while. I've had some issues with it. But yeah, this is Gilgamesh. I will talk to you later. Bye.